You seem a dreary lot. Charming man.
Dance like an angel, Fanny Price. Keep your wig on.
She's delightful. Mischievous women.
What's he like? A rake? Yes, please.
Welcome to Mansfield Park.
Would that more women were like you.
Jane Austen's wicked comedy, Mansfield Park.
Which gentleman am I to have the pleasure of making love to?
Rated PG-13. Now playing select cities.
So as I mentioned, this is based off of Jane Austen's best-selling wicked comedy, as they call it in this film. You have Fanny Price, who goes to live at Mansfield Park, the estate of her aunt's husband, Sir Thomas. Clever, studious, and a writer of an ironic imagination and fine moral compass, she becomes essentially close to Edmund, Thomas's younger son. Fanny is soon possessed of beauty as well as a keen mind and comes to the attention of a neighbor, Henry Crawford. Thomas promotes this match, but to his displeasure, Fanny has a mind of her own, asking Henry to prove himself worthy, as Edmund courts Henry's sister, and as light shines on the link between Thomas's fortunes and New World slavery, Fanny must assist Henry's character and assert her heart as well as her wit. Basically, Miramax trying to capture the same lightning in a bottle that Sense and Sensibility did a couple years prior to this, and Emma, but those films I think were much better compared to this film. It's not a bad movie per se. It does have some elements to it that are kind of fun, and it does depart from the original novel in a lot of respects. Like, the life of Jane Austen is actually incorporated into this film, as well as the ideas of slavery and West Indian plantations. And it makes for a very interesting film, a film that kind of works mostly because of the performances by the leading actors, Embeth Davidtz, Johnny Lee Miller, Alessandro Nivola, Frances O'Connor. Just a really good cast overall here. Not one of the best adaptations of a Jane Austen story, but definitely worth it if you want to see. If you like Emma and Sense and Sensibility, I think you definitely can get a kick out of this one. Nothing more to say about that one. That's Mansfield Park. So on to our next movie, and that is Pirates of Silicon Valley.
TNT, the best movie studio on television, presents Noah Wyle as Steve Jobs, Anthony Michael Hall as Bill Gates.
I got there first. I got the loot, Steve!
Pirates of Silicon Valley. See it for the first time anywhere, Sunday, June 20th at 8 on TNT.
So coming about 16 years before Danny Boyle's Steve Jobs, which is a really good film. I've talked about that a couple times, but this is a story spanning between the years of 1971 to 1997. It's based off the book Fire in the Valley, The Making of the Personal Computer, and it shows the rivalry between Steve Jobs, played by Noah Wyle, and Bill Gates, played by Anthony Michael Hall, through Apple and Microsoft, and the development of the personal computer. And while it certainly doesn't have the same great elements I think are in Steve Jobs, the biopic, I think this is a well-done movie. It's a really good film showing two really good performances by Michael Hall and Noah Wyle as Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. It really is worth it just to see these two performances going off on one another. And there is a lot of interesting history between these two that you really don't see coming until you actually look into a lot of the information that this movie tries to give you. It's interesting that this director didn't direct anything for almost 20 years before he took this movie. And I keep forgetting that this was the time when TNT had a number of different original movies. We're going to get to a couple of them as we got this list right here, but definitely worth a watch. I won't say it's better than the Steve Jobs movie. It's kind of interesting we never got a Bill Gates movie, too. I feel like that could have been something that could be very interesting to see in movie form, but this will do just fine for now. It's definitely worth a watch. I'd say watch Steve Jobs first, then watch Pirates of Silicon Valley, but I'd say check them both out because they are definitely worth it, but avoid the Ashton Kutcher Steve Jobs movie. For the love of God, please avoid that one. So that's Pirates of Silicon Valley. We'll get to some more TNT originals in just a little bit here, but we got a couple of direct-to-video animated films. Apparently they're very popular when I do these videos. So here's one of the first ones I noticed right away, Our Friend Martin.
Our Friend Martin, an exciting full-length animated adventure about 12-year-old Miles and his best friend Randy, who journey back through time and meet Martin Luther King Jr. during various stages of his life.
Whoa, Randy, this is major magic time, but actually in the past.
Featuring an all-star cast, original music and songs, and actual historical footage of Dr. King.
I have a dream.
Our Friend Martin, an entertaining and inspiring tale for the whole family.
And all we need is a dream and the courage to make it happen.
Coming exclusively to video from CBS Fox.
So this is a story about a black teenager named Miles who goes on a class field trip at the museum to learn about what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did for humanity. He thinks that he'd rather play baseball. But the trip turns into this exciting adventure when he and his best friend Randy, who's white, are sent back in time meeting Dr. Martin Luther King at several points during his life. And this is a film that could have easily been too preachy for its own good, but man, this was actually kind of a really good film. And it's interesting because this comes from Dick Animation, and they're usually not the best in terms of like telling good stories and all that. I think the one great storytelling animated series they ever did was the Sonic Sat AM series from the 1990s, which coincidentally Jaleel White is actually in here playing Martin Luther King Jr. at the age of 15, and he's actually played by several people in this movie. Dexter King at 34, and then LeVar Burton at age 27. And like I said, you're going through all these different bits of history. This has a big cast to it that you wouldn't tell from that trailer alone, but you got Robert Richard, who was on, I think he was on One-on-One, if I'm not mistaken, the UPN show from the 2000s, and also on Cousin Skeeter. Lucas Black, who went on to become a big actor in the Fast and Furious films. Ed Asner, who went on to be on the Boondocks, and many other things after that. Angela Bassett, Danny Glover, Whoopi Goldberg, Samuel L. Jackson, James Earl Jones, Ashley Judd, Richard Kind, Yolanda King, Susan Sarandon, John Travolta, Oprah Winfrey. I mean, they got a big cast for this. They were really proud of this movie. And you know what? They deserve it because it is a very interesting film. It's not too preachy. It doesn't do what you think it's going to do. It's going to be like but it actually keeps you invested throughout the course of the movie and seeing where they're going to go with all these places that they're going to go to here. And it's a fascinating little film. It's a film that a lot of people probably don't know about unless you watch these videos back in the day and saw that preview. I saw this preview a lot when I was watching stuff from 20th Century Fox in 1999, but in 98 as well. But yeah. It's definitely worth the watch. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. I mean, it's definitely going to be worth the watch. And it's one of those few little surprises. You might actually be pleasantly surprised by what you have here. But so that's our friend Martin. Now let's get to another direct-to-video animated film that I didn't even know even existed until it came out that day. And that is Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein.
Alvin and the Chipmunks get a gig at a movie theme park. They think it's a great way to get into a scary new ride. But when they find themselves locked in the park overnight, they're singing a different tune. Join Alvin, Simon, and Theodore in the biggest adventure of their young chipmunk lives.
Hey, don't hurt him. He's a good guy.
Cartoon Network's Cartoon Theater presents Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein. Next, only on Cartoon Network.
So kind of what happened around this time period. Alvin and the Chipmunks, the TV series, had been off the air for almost 10 years now, but it was still living on through reruns on Nickelodeon and then later Cartoon Network. And then around this time, Universal actually picked up the rights to do more Alvin and the Chipmunks projects, starting with the release of the Chipmunk Adventure on video a couple years before this. And this film literally came out of nowhere. I remember walking into a Suncoast Video in 1999 when we had it here at the Monroeville Mall. It was just like, that's a time capsule right there. If there's still Suncoast Videos out there, but there might be one or two, but not as much as they were back then. But I remember walking in there and I saw a new Alvin and the Chipmunks movie, and I had no idea it was even coming out. So we picked it up, and I remember watching it for the first time around that time period. And the concept here is basically what you think it is. Alvin and the Chipmunks, they're working at this theme park, and one of the new people that comes in is Dr. Frankenstein and his monster, which is Frankenstein's monster. Most people don't know that Frankenstein is not really the monster in the name of the monster. That's actually the name of the doctor, Victor Frankenstein, and the monster doesn't have a name at all. Like, it's a weird situation right there, but so basically, Dr. Frankenstein figures that the castle isn't scary enough and recreates the real Frankenstein, and after the monster finds the boys, it starts a wild and wacky adventure. And I gotta say, if you ever loved the Alvin and the Chipmunks cartoon from the 1980s, you pretty much get everything you see here as well. The twist, of course, being that Frankenstein now exists in the Chipmunk universe. I guess what they were trying to do are the obvious parodies of stuffing like the Abbott and Costello monster crossovers back in the day. But let's dissect some of the best aspects and some of the worst aspects here. On the plus side, It's the same Alvin and the Chipmunks from the classic cartoons. They're not modernized for the kids of today. They're not doing topical jokes or targeting down to the minuscule level of what's relevant or popular at the time, unlike the Fox movies. But then again, there's not that much that this movie does that excels, which isn't a bad thing per se. The movie itself is mostly completely harmless. It's a fun idea, basically having a bizarre idea, having Frankenstein meet Alvin and the Chipmunks. Though to be fair, the next movie they would do would be much more different than I think anybody would have expected. But let's talk about some of the negatives. The story makes no sense whatsoever. It starts off with a black and white sequence where the Doctor and his Frankenstein monster are being chased out by villagers. So it's safe to say this part takes place in the time period of the original Frankenstein films. That's fine. But then the Doctor just shows up in 1999 California, arriving at the theme park with his monster. So, is the Doctor a Highlander because he left the village? Did he kill the last Highlander to live forever? Because as we know, there can be only one. But, and by the way, what town is this? It looks like a town from the village. And the people just are living in that same time period where the rest of the world has aged with time because they are afraid of a red monster living out in the woods. It makes no sense how this works, and what's worse, the film never explains how this is even possible. You're just supposed to go along with it, go along for the ride, and you need to explain this to how this whole thing works. Plus, when you talk about a Saturday morning cartoonishly evil bad guy, this Doctor is clearly that. Nearly every single line in this movie is something sinister or evil coming out of his mouth. He's literally talking to people and asking them, do you have kidneys or organ donors? Like, how does nobody know that this guy is evil? And the animation is very, very off. If you've seen this film, you see that Dave looks way too much like John Stamos from Full House. Like, he literally looks like Uncle Jesse. It's just like, there are some nice touches to the animation. Like, there's a bit in there where they're on this the Chipmunks are on this roller coaster, and as the car keeps going faster and faster, they resort back to their older renditions, like the older 50s Chipmunks and the 60s Chipmunks. Like, the movie does have a little bit of a sense of humor to it with stuff like that, but it's about as harmless as you can get. There's nothing really about it that's offensively bad. It's just, it does have a problem with the villain and the story structure, and the animation, few and far between. It doesn't really work as well, but it's a fun movie to watch around Halloween. Not a great film, but believe me, like, I would rather take these movies than anything that came after with the live-action films any day of the week. So, let's talk about a good animated film that came out in 1991 on video, Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost.
Only on video. Mysteries as old as mankind. Witchcraft. Ghosts. Talking dogs. Run? Where? It's the all-new, fully animated movie, Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost.
Ghost hunting's our specialty.
So hop aboard the Mystery Machine for a Scoop-tacular ride and bring home the mystery only on video with Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost today.
I've never seen anything like this.
That's the mystery.
With the purchase of every video, you can get an exclusive Scooby-Doo beanbag by mail for only $4.99 plus shipping and handling.
You're the man, Scoob. You're the man.
From Warner Brothers Family Entertainment.
So this was the second direct-to-video film that they did with the Scooby-Doo gang after Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, which turned out to be a big success. And the story here is that you have the gang traveling to this New England town in Oak Haven after being invited by this horror writer played by Tim Curry. And like a number of different direct-to-video films released around this time, this movie uses real ghosts instead of simple bad guys in masks, giving the film a darker tone. And technically, this film was supposed to not be that way. It was supposed to be like a typical Scooby-Doo adventure, but they actually had to force it. It's like after what happened with Zombie Island, how successful that was, they said, let's do it with this. And it shows in terms of the third act, which seems kind of tacked on, but it does lead to a pretty good twist that you don't really see coming. But like I said, the film follows up on the similar setup of Zombie Island with a real ghost instead of traditional simple bad guys, and it does give that movie that darkest tone. I still think Zombie Island, can be easily seen as the darkest Scooby-Doo movie ever made. For example, like you have the Scooby-Doo song by Third Eye Blind in Zombie Island, which is pretty good, and then you have Billy Ray Cyrus doing this. 1999 Billy Ray Cyrus, by the way, smack dab in the middle, past the achy breaky heart era and pre-Hannah Montana era. I mean, okay, to be perfectly honest, it's not the worst thing, but to go from Third Eye Blind to Billy Ray Cyrus, talk about going in the complete opposite direction with the theme. And As far as the film itself goes, it's still a really good film. The animation's still really good. The voice casting once again works really well. Like, I swear they wanted to get Jeff Goldblum for Ben Ravencroft, but they basically said, we'll go with Tim Curry, which is nothing wrong with that per se, especially since Tim Curry gets to go peak Tim Curry at the end. This film is most notable, though, for the introduction to the Hex Girls, who would later become supporting characters in the Scooby-Doo universe, and you know, they have lasting power, and you can definitely see why. They are likable people. You do like seeing them around with these characters, and they do make sense to live in this universe, and they hit the idea of, let's take the Scooby-Doo formula and make it real ghosts instead of these guys in masks. It's everything you can expect from these newer Scooby-Doo films when coming out at the time, but it's certainly not as good as Zombie Island, but it's still quite enjoyable enough. I can't recommend this one enough. Definitely check out Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost. So let's move on to our next film that we have here, and that is George Orwell's Animal Farm.
Throughout history, animals have worked for man.
I keep alive.
And man has fed and cared for them.
What about the animals? Let them rot.
Where's our food?
I'm so hungry.
But now, in this valley, on this farm, in this barn,
Man is our enemy.
things are about to change.
Remove man, and we will become free and equal.
Free and equal.
Based on one of the most important and controversial books of our time.
What's going on in there? Revolution! Seize the day! Get to the car! Glorious victory is ours! We must never come to resemble man in any way.
They started with a dream of prosperity.
Our farm is now truly Animal Farm.
Now, they will have to face their greatest challenge, themselves.
From now on, a special committee of pigs will decide all aspects of the farm.
Lakeshore
So this is, not surprisingly, based off of the George Orwell classic novel about a satire of Stalinist Russia. The story takes place on the revolts of the animals of Manor Farm against their human masters. Led by the pig Trotsky, the pig Snowball, and Napoleon, who are supposed to be Trotsky and Stalin, the animals attempt to create a utopian society. Soon, however, Napoleon gets a taste of power, drives out Snowball, and establishes a totalitarian regime as brutal and corrupt as any human society. Manor Farm becomes a world where animals are equal, but some are more equal than others, and you would think this would make for a good movie. And yeah, watching that trailer in full, you'll be wondering to yourself, what the hell did I just watch? Because they took one of the most well-known satirical, allegorical novels of all time and just butchered it on so many levels. They watered it down so it could appeal to families and kids, along with the adults, but that was not the intended purpose of the story. They took the predictable route for the story, simplifying it, dumbing it down, and the effects works. You expect a lot more from Jim Henson's Creature Shop than what I just showed you. I mean, this is unbelievably bad. And it's bad, and what makes it even worse is that you have phenomenal actors in here. Dignified actors like Peter Ustinov as Old Major, Patrick Stewart and Ian Holm, like Kelsey Grammer, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Julia Ormond, Pete Postlethwaite, Paul Schofield. They're bad in this movie too. This is an unbelievable mess of a film. And like there's a way to do this story the way George Orwell intended it. In fact, there was an animated movie that did this back in the 1950s that was far superior and stayed more in tone with the book and didn't water itself down to appeal to families. Not to mention have some really good Disney-style animation for the time period. Like, if you're going to do this in live-action form, you got to get somebody like the director of The Maze Runner, Wes Ball, or maybe even The Hunger Games, like Francis Lawrence or Gary Ross, or hell, the director of The Revenant and Birdman, Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu. I think he could make a good, darker, PG-13 tone story similar to the book with better effects than in this film. Like, this thing was made with so much, this was a film that had so much potential to it, which for a TNT movie produced by Hallmark, a $23 million budget, is staggering. I mean, I expect a lot better from these people involved, but not a watered-down version of this. Hopefully someday somebody will get the true potential of the story done right in live-action form, but just go watch the animated film if you want to see the best version of Animal Farm out there, but avoid this one like the plague. This is an abysmal mess of a film. Avoid this one badly. So, with that said, let's get back on the more positive side of things by looking at Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas.
Be a part of a very special holiday event
Walt Disney presents Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas, an all-new full-length movie premiering only on video. Join Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy, and all your favorite Disney characters in the film that brings home the true meaning of the holiday.
Share the joy of Christmas.
Come along as Mickey and Minnie discover the magic of sharing.
You're all the music I'll ever need.
Donald Duck and his nephews learn the joy of Christmas comes only once a year. And Goofy shows Max
Of course there's a Santa.
You think?
that with faith and a little trust, dreams do come true.
Merry Christmas, Dad.
All your favorite Disney characters in one big holiday celebration. Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas. Now available only on video.
So what they're not really telling you is that this is more of an anthology film. You have 3 different stories with narrations by Kelsey Grammer. I mean, anytime he's involved with anything, you've got to watch it, even if it's the worst thing ever. I mean, this guy made Money Plane worth watching just for the way he says these lines. But you have 3 different stories here. You have one that's based off the story of Christmas Every Day, which is, of course, the story about how somebody wishes that it was Christmas every day, and every day for a full year, they would keep it would be Christmas Day, and this has been done so many different times. There's never been a true movie version of this storyline, which I really would have liked to see that. Not just I'm not talking about a TV movie. I'm talking about like a theatrical movie release. Like, I can't believe somebody hasn't even tried to do that once. Like, I'm really hoping one day that actually happens. But in that one, you have the story of Huey, Dewey, and Louie basically saying they wish it was Christmas every day, and so every day it's Christmas every day, and they get the same presents, they get the same situations that happen in there, and it gets to the point where they just get so sick and tired of it until they have to realize what the true meaning of Christmas is, and that's how the time loop ends. So after that, we get a story with Goofy and Max, and this time it's set between Goof Troop, the TV series, and the Goofy movie. So this isn't the teenager Max that we see in the Goofy movie, which coincidentally, the sequel, the direct-to-video sequel, An Extremely Goofy Movie, only came out a couple of weeks after this movie came out. So basically, in that one, you have a story where Goofy and Max send a letter to Santa Claus, but Pete basically starts the conversation that Santa Claus isn't really real, and Max has this existential crisis, and Goofy's trying to prove to him that he exists, and he's doing everything he can and then some to prove it to him, and things happen, and then eventually they kind of set it up that in this world he does exist, although you could make the argument they could have done this a little bit better if they didn't make it straight out in the open that he does exist here. It'd be tough to do, but I think that would have handled it better. But I like what they did here. I thought they did a pretty good job with that story. And then the last one they did, which is another story that I can't believe nobody's tried to do in theatrical form, The Gift of the Magi with Mickey and Minnie. Mickey wants to get a gold chain for Minnie on her, and Minnie wants to get Mickey something special, but she doesn't know what to get her. And she's betting everything on this Christmas bonus, which ends up being a fruitcake because of her boss, Mortimer Mouse, which is a nice little callback to the classic cartoons. And then Mickey, who's selling Christmas trees, ends up getting fired by Pete. And so eventually Mickey decides to trade his harmonica for the gold chain. And so we later find out that Minnie gave up her chain to get Mickey get Mickey a case for his harmonica. That was the thing that she wanted to get him, and it follows the story pretty well here, and it works well because these two characters work off each other so well to make that story work. And again, you have the real life couple of Wayne Allwine and Russi Taylor playing these voices. It's just pitch perfect. I mean, it's just pitch perfect the way they handle that, and the movie itself is a really good, fun film. It's one I always go back to at Christmas time. Every year, I go back to this movie, and this one, and even the second one, which isn't as good, but they both kind of hold special places in my heart. I mean, I really like this one a lot. It's one I always go back to every year, and really, it's just worth it when it's all said and done. It's a really solid film. Like I said, it's one I go back to all the time. I can't recommend this one enough. Definitely check it out this holiday season because it's definitely worth a watch. So, bet you didn't know that Barry Levinson had a film come out in 1999. Apparently it was around November. This is Liberty Heights.
From the director of Diner, Tin Man, and Avalon.
Now, there's no such thing as a dream girl. Do you think that my father thought that my mother was a dream girl? No way. Liberty Heights.
So Liberty Heights is the fourth of Levinson's Baltimore films, the other films including Diner, Tin Men, and Avalon. And this is a semi-autobiographical account of his childhood growing up in Baltimore in the 1950s, portrayed are the racial injustices experienced by both the Jewish and African-American populations. Both of Nate Kurtzman's sons found women prohibited to them. For Van, because he is Jewish and white, and for Ben, because he is white. Their father goes to prison for running a burlesque show with Little Melvin, an African-American and known local drug dealer. And you have a cast that includes Adrian Brody, Ben Foster, Orlando Jones, Bebe Neuwirth, Joe Montana, David Krumholtz, Kevin Sussman, Anthony Anderson, Shane West. And it's one that people probably don't know about. And sadly, because it's actually really good. It's one of Barry Levinson's most underrated movies. And it works if you've seen his other films, Diner, Tin Man, Avalon, that series he has. It's a really well-made film, and it's one that I definitely recommend people check out because it's definitely worth a watch. And it shows you how great of a director Barry Levinson can be. Again, he needed this after Spear was a huge misfire on so many different levels, and he really wouldn't come back to form again for a little bit after this. But it's a really good film. I definitely recommend checking it out. It's an underrated little gem from his. Definitely watch it. It's worth it. So with that said, let's go back to Christmas. 1999 gave us A Christmas Carol with Patrick Stewart.
Damn you, Merry Christmas.
Ebenezer, you will be haunted by 3 spirits.
I am the ghost of Christmas presents. Show me no more. Why, you delight in torturing me. Oh, Tiny Tim live.
Patrick Stewart and Hallmark Entertainment bring you the most spectacular telling of A Christmas Carol.
Can you forgive a stupid old man?
Reawaken the spirit of Christmas. A Christmas Carol. Look for it on video cassette and DVD.
Yet another TNT movie. This is basically, really, do I need to say what the story of A Christmas Carol is at this point? But it's basically that, except it's Patrick Stewart as Ebenezer Scrooge and Richard E. Grant as Bob Cratchit. You also have Joel Grey in here playing the spirit of Christmas past. This is basically a film that was made solely after Patrick Stewart did a series of successful one-man shows of A Christmas Carol on Broadway and in London. And I don't really talk about it on this channel, but I love A Christmas Carol. It's one of my all-time favorite stories. I'm a sucker for any adaptation of the story. And really, there's a lot of different versions that I do really like. There are ones that I really don't like. The one that I was shocked that I did not like the most was, of all things, the FX A Christmas Carol. Like, I thought that one, like, you know, FX usually makes a lot of great stuff. You've got Guy Pearce, you've got Stephen Wright and Tom Hardy and Ridley Scott among the executive producers. It's a more darker tone than the original storyline, but it drags like crazy. It is so boring as hell to watch, and it's a shame because I had so much hype finally watching it in 2020, the year after it came out. That one let me down a lot, but this version gives you everything that you expect it to. Patrick Stewart does a great job as Ebenezer Scrooge. I mean, the story overall is very much the classic story of A Christmas Carol, but it's not one of my my favorite versions overall. If I have to pick my 5 favorite versions of A Christmas Story, simply it comes down to the George C. Scott one from '84. That's one I got to watch every year. Mickey's Christmas Carol, of course. What was another one? Bill Murray as Scrooge, a nice modern take on that one. Let me put the list up here so I actually know what I'm talking about here, because I know I'm going to forget some. Jim Carrey's Christmas Carol, the Robert Zemeckis one I really liked, and there was one more. Is it even on here? I'm trying to... Oh, the Muppet Christmas Carol, of course. But like I said, I liked a lot of different Christmas Carol versions. I like a lot of different versions. So, of course, I always got to watch every single one of them. There have been some bad ones, but there have been a lot of good ones. But this one's kind of right in the middle. But Patrick Stewart, I think, was perfectly cast as Ebenezer Scrooge. I think he makes it stand out the most out of everything. But it's a great film. I really do recommend it. So, on to the next movie. Hank Azaria and Jack Lemmon in Tuesdays with Morrie.
Tuesdays with Morrie is the best network television movie. Inspiring. Moving. Jack Lemmon is terrific. A likely Emmy nomination. See why Tuesdays with Morrie is being called ABC's special gift to viewers.
I love you, Coach.
Starring Jack Lemmon and Hank Azaria, next on ABC.
One of the sappiest movies of all time, but goddamn it, I love this movie to death. based off of Mitch Albom's 1997 novel of the same name. In the film, he's played by Hank Azaria, and he bonds with his former professor, played by Jack Lemmon, who is dying of ALS over a series of visits. And, yeah, like I said, it's one of the most sappiest movies, one of the most emotionally driven movies you will ever see, but I gotta say, man, like, it's hard not to start tearing up at this movie. This is a film that I really, really found myself really enjoying a whole lot, mostly because of those performances by Jack Lemmon and Hank Azaria. Hank Azaria does not get the proper respect I think he deserves. I mean, everyone knows him from The Simpsons, but every time he's tried to do something on his own, it's usually not successful, or it's not something like The Smurfs, or something like a movie that really devoids him of his true talents. But man, the guy is a really damn good actor, and he has the play against Jack Lemmon in this film, and he just makes it work. You can see why this film swept the Emmys that year, and this is a film that just really was just like I was waiting for this movie to go the route that I thought it was going to go. I thought it was going to go down a route of, okay, here's the cheap emotional moments, and here's and all that, but it doesn't really do that. Every emotion in this movie is earned, and you can just get invested in these dialogues and storylines that these two characters go through throughout the course of the film, that when this moment happens, when when Jack Lemmon's character is no longer there, you really do feel like these emotions are very much earned. It's just like, it's a wonderful movie, man. It's a film that I don't think gets the proper attention that it deserves, but it's definitely worth a watch. Watch it for Jack Lemmon and Hank Azaria. These are two really great performances from two really solid actors, and probably the last great Jack Lemmon performance you'll see from him, because I think he passed away not too long after this movie came out. Only about a year and a half after this movie came out, but man, he went out with a bang with this one. Tuesdays with Morrie, man. So, should have been not as good as it should have been, but it's definitely worth a watch. Definitely check it out. So, let's end this on a high note. Let's go to our last film that we have here, and that is Animaniacs Wacko's Wish.
Hey, what's up? What's all the noise?
The Warner girl and the Warner boy.
They're gathered around in the village square.
They say there's something way out there. Something weird and something strange.
In a tale that captures your imagination.
What is that?
Haven't you heard?
There's no such thing. It's too absurd.
Could well be, but we just don't know.
We'll soon find out if we're going to go
To the wishing star, to the wishing star. It's something weird and so bizarre. It fell to earth from way afar.
They're on their way to the wishing star. I gotta get to the wishing star. Where do we really go so far? Out of my way, whoever you are.
Steven Spielberg presents the Animaniacs in their first full-length feature. Wacko's Wish, coming fall 1999.
Maybe we should have kept this our little secret.
So this, of course, comes just a year and a half after the Animaniacs series finale. The original series ended, basically when Kids WB decided to go all anime with Pokemon success, and basically left shows like Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain left to rot. But basically what happens here is that it relocates all the Animaniacs characters to this 19th century fairy tale world and portrays their race to find this wishing star that will grant them a wish. And it's pretty much what you expect from an Animaniacs movie. It's interesting. I thought at one point they were going to make this into a movie for theaters. I thought that was originally supposed to be the plan, because I could have sworn there was a couple of trailers back when this was in development that they said that this was going to be a theatrical release, and then eventually became a direct-to-video release. But either way, man, this is a really good film. It's everything that you expect from the Animaniacs. The animation is upped a little bit. It's a little too clean for its own good, but in a way, it works to the film's favor. It is a very good film. Nice animation overall. Great songs written by these. It's like the last seeing an old friend again after seeing them off of TV for a little bit here. It was a nice return to form. Everybody's back from here. Everybody from the original cast is back in this. The same people who created it are involved in it. It definitely delivers on everything you can ask for and then some. The jabs are still there. The comedy is still good. There's even a little bit of good dramatic elements to it. I was actually really surprised at how emotional some parts of this movie got when it really did not need to. But, I mean, not much more I can say about this one, man. If you have not seen Wacko's Wish, definitely seek this one out, because it is definitely worth the watch. Animaniacs Wacko's Wish. Coincidentally, one of the last films released in 1999 in the 20th century. Kind of botched that up at the end, but we finally got through most of the most notable films of the 20th century. We are now heading into the 21st century.
Craig, it's gonna be different living out here. Don't let your uncle or your cousin get you into any kind of trouble.
I'm beginning to like Rancho Cucamonga.
Daddy, Craig's here. Boy, you looking good.
Why don't you give your auntie sugar some sugar?
Damn. You see how we live? We live wild.
I feel 5 pounds lighter.
We live wild.
Oh, I like it, Ralph.
You got a restraining order on a little girl named Baby D.
Hey, fellas. They didn't expect you to answer.
Hey, we got that Ricky Martin CD. I love him.
You're not related to the Jacksons, are you?
Oh. Hey, where the hell you been? What dropped you on your head when you were a kid?
New Line Cinema presents.
Meet Miss Hope.
I'm gonna give some breakfast to my dead homies.
Ice Cube.
Someday.
Carla?
Hey, Carla's got jungle fever, I see. It's lunchtime.
That's Slayer.
Clean fresh air. Just smoke.
Some days are better than others. But nothing is better
I love Fridays.
than next Friday.
Better open up that window.
I got an idea.
So you have Ice Cube's character Craig Jones going on to live with his uncle and his cousin in Rancho Cucamonga after his uncle won the lottery, and he's doing this because the neighborhood bully Debo, played by Tiny Lister, escapes from prison when Craig contends with 3 criminal brothers known as the Joker Brothers. Meanwhile, Debo's coming after Craig, and through a bunch of circumstances, they end up meeting up at the end. And I'll tell you this much, this movie definitely has less of a story compared to the first Friday movie. I mean, the first Friday movie was pretty much straightforward. You had a day in the life of Craig and also Smokey, played by Chris Tucker, which, interestingly enough, Smokey does not come back in this movie. Basically, it was later revealed that Ice Cube basically said that Chris Tucker didn't want to return to play Smokey because of religious reasons, as they put it in quotes, and they were going to offer him $10 to $12 million to do next Friday. I mean, he had just come off of Money Talks and also Rush Hour, so I mean, his name was pretty well known up to this point, and he was still a well-recognizable actor, but he turned it down, and so far he's never come back. Chris Tucker's never been back to the series, even though the character Smokey later returned in the Friday TV series that came out later on down the road, which we won't even talk about that because that's not a good series. This movie definitely is a major step down from the first movie. It's your typical comedy sequel. It's basically a lot of been there, done that type of stuff. But with that said, there are moments in here that are legitimately funny. There are still a ton of funny moments in here. But there is definitely more filler in this movie than there was in the last movie. The first movie, at least with the filler stories, they at least came together in the end of this movie. There are stories in this movie that really do not add up or serve a purpose to this film whatsoever. Most notably, there's a subplot about, Mike Epps playing Day-Day, and Day-Day has this pregnant ex-girlfriend of his who... basically, he has a restraining order on her, and she keeps coming back over the course of the film, and she really does not serve a purpose to the story whatsoever. She's just there to be kind of an inclusion or somewhat of a running gag towards the end of the movie. And even then, by the end of the movie, they really do not do a whole lot with her, so her character pretty much becomes pointless in the long run. There's a lot of elements in this film that feel really pointless compared to the other movie, but like I said, there are still a lot of funny moments in the film. You do like the camaraderie between Ice Cube and Mike Epps. You can believe that these two are related, and they do have somewhat of a decent friendly relationship between one another. John Witherspoon's always going to be funny as Craig's father. Kim Whitley, and also who plays Don Curry, who plays his uncle and his aunt. They're really funny in this movie. Kim Whitley in particular is really, really funny in here. I get they were trying to do something similar to something like. It felt like they were trying to do something similar to what American Pie did with Jennifer Coolidge being like the hot MILF in that film. This time you got the hot aunt here. Like, you could definitely tell they took that way with it, but it's still pretty funny. I'll give them a lot of credit for actually working with that. There's a lot of good funny moments in the film. A lot with these uncredited cameos. People like Michael Rappaport, Amy Hill plays Miss Ho Kim. Clifton Powell. I'm trying to think of who else was in here of noteworthiness. Michael Blackson has a great cameo in here. It still has some good funny moments in there, but they're very few and far between. You really do have to get through a lot of slow moments and moments that are just not that just seem like kind of filler or things that were not as funny as they should have been. But yeah, it's fine. It's definitely not the first movie. The first movie I still think stands out the most out of all these movies in particular, but then again, that's to be said about most comedy sequels. Most comedy sequels, I've learned now, do about 50% of what made the original movie so special. Like they go back to doing the same thing over again for the most part, and very rarely do you get the one comedy sequel that's actually really damn good. And this one, not so much. I mean, it's fine for what it is, but it definitely could have been a lot better considering what they had going with the first film. I will say, though, I might be on the side of a very little bit of a controversial opinion about this, but I like Friday After Next more than I do Next Friday. Like, Friday After Next at least was trying to do something a little bit different. It took place around Christmas time, and I thought that one had much more funnier moments than this movie does. And a story that actually made a little bit more sense compared to the first Friday movie, but that's my opinion. I don't know what the overall feeling on Next Friday is compared to Friday After Next, but for me it's Friday, then Friday After Next, then Next Friday. I think this is the worst of the three, but with that said, still not a bad movie, but definitely not as good as the first movie, so take that for what you will. So, with that said, let us go ahead and move on to the only other film that we have here, and that is Walter Hill's Supernova.
Discovered the greatest treasure in human history. It's the most amazing thing any of us has ever had to see. What's wrong?
It's opening!
Oh my God.
You've played around with this thing, haven't you?
Supernova.
Warning. Extreme hazard to crew.
Rated PG-13.
Oh, if only I could show you the trailer for this. That is so horribly mismarketed. They sell the trailer for this as this something you would see on MTV, because they got Sugar Ray's "I Just Want to Fly" playing in there. They're playing up the whole teen aspect here. They always talk about sex on there for the first half of the trailer, and like I can't show it on here because MGM's one of those studios that every time I try to put a clip from the trailers, it's always they get copyright claims. So, unfortunately, I can't show it to you, but you should definitely check it out and watch them completely missell this movie. In fact, this whole movie in general, it just doesn't feel like it just is a mess. Just stop me if you've heard this story before. Supernova chronicles the search and rescue patrol of a medical ship in deep space, Alien. I don't even need to finish this by telling you it's a ripoff of Alien. It's another freaking ripoff of Alien. And this thing actually went through several years of development hell. It started off originally developed in 1988 by director William Malone as Dead Star, with paintings by H.R. Geiger and a plot that had been called Hellraiser in Outer Space. They brought in Jack Shoulder to direct this film. Let me rephrase that. They brought in Walter Hill to direct the film. And then they basically hired Jack Shoulder to do substantial uncredited reshoots, and they even brought in Francis Ford Coppola to direct some scenes in the film, and even brought him into the editing room, which, I could be wrong, but I think he was actually the owner of the studio at the time when this movie came out. Let me do some research on this. Okay, maybe I'm misreading it here, but here's some more information about why Francis Ford Coppola was brought in. In August of 1999, Coppola was brought in by MGM to supervise another re-editing of the film Supernova, costing $1 million as American Zoetrope facility in Northern California. This work included digitally placing Angela Bassett and James Spader's faces on the bodies of a computer-tinted Robin Tooney and Peter Facinelli so that the characters can have a love scene. Yeah, that's going to work out well, but let's keep going here. Coppola's re-edited version had negative test screenings, I can't imagine why, and didn't get the PG-13 rating by the MPAA that the studio wanted. Creature designer Patrick Tatopoulos, whose special effects were mostly cut off from the film, said that Walter Hill wanted to make the film more grotesque, strange, and disturbing, while MGM wanted to make it more of a hip, sexy film in space, which, if you see that trailer, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and not with full-blown makeup effects. And Coppola basically said, I hope that my experience in the film industry has helped improve the picture, rectify some of the problems that losing a director caused. But in October, they sold the film, and it was eventually released in 2000, 2 years later than they originally planned. And basically, the film shares a lot of similar elements to something like Event Horizon or Alien Cargo, which was released around the same year. It's friggin' Alien. It's another Alien ripoff featuring too many good names in here. James Spader, Angela Bassett, Robert Forster, Lou Diamond Phillips, Peter Facinelli, Robin Tooney, Wilson Cruz. I mean, the fact that I had to say the thing that said they had to digitally insert James Spader and Angela Bassett. Was that what I think that's what it said. I know this is dead air, but I gotta see for myself just to make sure. Yeah, to put Angela Bassett and James Spader's face on Robin Tooney, a white person, and Peter Facinelli to try to sell as a love scene, that alone means that this movie was dead on arrival. And sure enough, this thing crashed and burned. They spent $60 to $90 million on this movie, and it only brought in $15 million. Good Lord. Like, honestly, I could stop right there. There's nothing really more I need to say about this movie. This is an absolutely horrible, horrible movie. And even if this movie had actually been given the director's cut that something like Event Horizon would later get down the road, this thing still would have been terrible. This is an insult to the sci-fi genre. The Alien movies deserve much more credit than this. I would rather watch Alien Resurrection and Alien Covenant again is in a double feature than watch this movie again. That's how bad this movie is. And the fact that they had to bring in Francis Ford Coppola to do something that was completely outside of his norm at a time when he was really struggling to find his way again, like, it's just, I've got nothing else to say. I should just stop right there. And poor Walter Hill, man. This was a downward spiral for him. This began a downward spiral for him because no movie that came after this in theaters ever led up to this early success that he had back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But just a mess of a film, man. Like, again, I have nothing more to say about this movie. This is an abysmally bad film. Avoid it like the plague. Please, for the love of God, avoid it like the plague.
You were with a 6-year-old woman last night?
When you work in physical therapy, you make friends fast. All of Al's friends want him to be a player.
We don't need love in our lives.
No, he's totally cute, and he didn't bring me to a cheap restaurant either. My dad, he just likes to check in.
But all he wants is the one who got away.
I thought we had something special.
My son Al, ladies and gentlemen. I gotta get her back. She's perfect for me.
Freddie Prinze Jr., Julia Stiles, Down to You. This film is not yet rated. In theaters Friday, January 21st.
Yeah, this was not the cult classic that came out this weekend. You have Freddie Prinze Jr. and Julia Stiles as young lovers who meet in college and go through the ups and downs of relationships. That's pretty much the movie, and it's not an interesting movie whatsoever. In fact, it's not even that funny. It's not that clever. These two actors have been better in much better films. This one, not so much. This is the perfect definition of a movie that was dumped in January because the studio didn't believe in it, and they spent way too much money on it. I mean, this thing has a $35 million budget. Nothing about this movie has anything that needs a $35 million budget to it. I don't care who it is. I don't care who you get to star in it. I mean, too much good talent in this movie, but a lackluster script. A story that doesn't really work all that well. The chemistry even between these two is not that great at all. It's a real misfire on so many levels. And like I said, it's the perfect definition of a dumping ground movie in the month of January. It's a movie that the studio didn't believe in it. They put it out in a time when nobody's going to put out a big blockbuster, and this thing's going to make money. And it ended up becoming the second high-grossing film of the weekend, but not saying that much. This thing only brought in $24 million off a $35 million budget. So, bomb. Not much more to say about that one, but let's get to the movie that everyone remembers that did come out this weekend and has since become a cult classic since its release. That is, of course, The Boondock Saints.
How far are we going to take this? The question is not how far. The question is, do you possess the Constitution? Depth of faith to go as far as is needed.
So the story of the Boondock Saints is that you have these two Irish fraternal twin brothers, played by Sean Patrick Flannery and Norman Reedus, who become vigilantes after killing two members of the Russian mafia in self-defense. After both experience an epiphany, the twins, together with their best friend Funnyman Rocco, played by David Della Rocco, set out on a mission to rid Boston of the criminal underground in the name of God, all the while being pursued by an FBI secret agent played by Willem Dafoe. This movie has a lot of interesting things about it. Troy Duffy, who had never written a script before, was inspired by personal experiences while living with his brother Taylor in Los Angeles. And I remember watching documentaries about how this movie got made. There's a great one called Overnight about the making of the film. And the film was not the big hit when it came out. In fact, it was actually received very negatively by critics. But as it came, as like I said before, this thing had a lot of huge following in terms of its home video release and through word of mouth. I remember when we were working on the media show at my high school, there would be times when they would have this movie in between breaks on in the background. Like, I don't know how they were able to get that in there. I just remember that was one of the things that they did, but it went on to become a massive cult hit and went on to become a franchise in its own right, spawning a sequel, The Boondock Saints 2 All Saints Day, which came out at the end of the decade. And supposedly there's a third film coming pretty soon, although I haven't heard too much about it since then. They've announced it back in, I think 2016 was when they announced it. Actually, it does say that it was announced in 2021 that it's moving forward. It actually was supposed to start shooting in May. I haven't heard anything about it, so I don't know if it's actually coming or not, but you never know. But yeah, if you watch the movie, it's really well done. It's a really good, intense thriller. You do buy into into the main character's cause and their love for this type of thing, and you realize that it's a really good, well-made drama that features so many good performances by Flannery Reedus, and also Billy Connolly also has a great role in here. David Della Rocco, who hasn't really done a whole lot since this movie. He doesn't even have a thing on his Wikipedia page, but you could tell that this movie had a lot of things about it that this director Troy Duffy really wanted to tell, and his heart and soul went into this movie. I mean, this was a film that he wrote the script as he was a production assistant and sent it to a production assistant at New Line Cinema, and it was later swapped around to Paramount Pictures, and then Miramax Films won it in a bidding war, and then Miramax just gave up on it at the last second. So he had to put this movie. So basically, Troy Duffy had to put this movie out on his own, he had to go to an independent studio. This is probably the most successful movie franchise Pictures has ever done too. The infamous studio that gave us such masterpieces such as Ballistics X vs. Sever, Driven, and Battlefield Earth. So yeah, but then again, they also did the whole 9 yards. So I guess 2 times they got it right. The other times, not so much. But yeah, not much more to say about this one. It's a classic film, a great movie, a well-made drama, great performances all around. Really like this one a lot. Definitely like the second one as well. Really curious to see what they'll do with the third film if that ever comes out. But definitely check out The Boondock Saints if you haven't seen it. It's definitely worth the watch.
There are people we should never watch. There are moments we should never see. And there are obsessions we should never follow.
She went north about a half hour ago.
Ewan McGregor, Ashley Judd. Eye of the Beholder.
What are you doing? Don't do this to me.
Rated R. Starts Friday, January 28th.
Yeah, if you're the #1 movie and you only made less than $6 million and you have an F Cinema score, which is the first movie to have that since Bolero, the Bo Derek gem of a film. I say that sarcastically, but yeah, that's not a good sign for this movie. You have a British consulate investigator, Dr. Stephen Wilson, played by Ewan McGregor, who's called the Eye. He comes across a disturbed lady serial killer played by Ashley Judd, who is on an otherwise mundane assignment, already a bit psychologically fragile, with his wife's abrupt removal of himself and their daughter from his life, with the lingering memories of his daughter haunting him like a manifest ghost. His psychosis, or displaced dad, dovetails with the femme fatale psychosis of the abandoned daughter crying, "Merry Christmas, Daddy," over her expired victims. A bond forms, or rather an obsession, as the Eye abandons his job to secretly stalk this mysterious woman full-time as she visits many major cities under various names. And come on, man, like, the premise alone for this is really friggin' stupid. And they got these two because Ewan McGregor was just in The Phantom Menace, Ashley Judd was just in Double Jeopardy, two of the biggest hits in 1999. What more do I gotta say, man? I really do not need to say anything more about this. This is a stupid, stupid movie. You wouldn't believe that this came from the very same director that just 6 years prior to this gave us the Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Never would have guessed that in a million years. And, yeah. Again, not much more to say about that one. We really do not need to go into this. You know what's going to happen. You know what the big twist is going to be. You don't like these characters whatsoever. Yada, yada, yada. Bad film. Typical January film. So, with that said, on to our next movie. And, we should be a little bit better with this one, but, not so much. Bette Midler, Nathan Lane, and Isn't She Great?
Reading never solved anything.
You're gonna write one. Bette Midler, Nathan Lane, John Cleese, David Hyde Pierce, Stockard Channing, together.
Can I write about having sex in swimming pools?
Even Shakespeare didn't think of that.
They created a sensation that shocked the nation.
Those women in that book, they are animals.
So you hated it.
It is the finest book I have ever read.
Isn't she great? Rated R. Starts Friday, January 28th.
Yeah, I don't think making a movie based off of Valley of the Dolls' creation and trying to make it a screwball comedy worked in this film's favor. You basically have a story where it covers Jacqueline Suzanne, the author of the book, played by Bette Midler, her entire life focusing on her early struggles as an aspiring actress, relentlessly hungry for fame, her relationship with press agent, husband Irving Mansfield, played by Nathan Lane, with whom she's had an institutionalized autistic son, her success as the author of The Valley of the Dolls, and her battle with her subsequent death from breast cancer. In addition to Miller and Lane, this also has Stockard Channing, as you see, David I. Pierce, John Cleese, also John Larroquette, Amanda Peet, Christopher McDonald. Just a really good cast overall here. It's not a bad director or writer, too. This is Andrew Bergman, who gave us some pretty good movies back in the day. He did The Freshman, which is a very good, underrated film. Honeymoon in Vegas was very funny, so was It Could Happen to You, and I kind of have a soft spot for Striptease. This was his last film he directed, by the way. And Paul Rudnick, of course, gave us the Addams Family movies. So the talent is there. The script is not. I mean, like I said, it tries to make a movie based off of the creation of a story that was made into one of the most infamous movies ever made, and tries to bring it into a modern setting, and also tries to make it with lackluster sitcom-esque comedy. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The comedy in this movie is bad. I mean, like, CBS comedies are written much better than this movie is. That's the worst thing about this film. There's just so much potential that went to this film wasted. From the casting, from the story idea, to the tone of the film. It's just badly put together on so many different levels. And it's a shame because, like I said, the talent is there. The writing and directing is there. It's just not a good script to work with. And the film suffers big time. A waste of great talent overall. Typical January movie. What more can you say? So, we got one more movie here, so let's see if Craig Ferguson can end January 2000 on a high note with the big tease.
He came from a remote village in Scotland to the ruthless city of Los Angeles to enter a competition unlike any he'd ever faced before. And soon, all the world will know his name. Crawford McKenzie is Crawford McKenzie.
That was quite good. Was that Butch in it? Welcome to Los Angeles. What kind of movie you guys making?
It's exactly like Braveheart, except it's a hairdressing movie set in modern times. Most of it is indoors and nobody gets killed.
What are you? I'm representing Scotland with the Platinum Scissors.
Everyone who is anyone in hair is here to watch the world's top stylists compete with the Platinum Scissors.
You really don't understand. I love masterpiece theater, only you're not getting into my competition.
It's kind of like Broadway, but with curvers.
You guys want an idea for a movie? 5 words. Teenage, acidic, lizard, basketball meaning. You know what I mean? It's a slam dunk, man.
There have been many great hairdressing movies in Hollywood history. Shampoo.
There's only a few things I love in life, but most of all, I love what that man does with hair.
Are you talking to me? There's nobody else here. Who are you talking to?
Of all the salons in all the world, you have to walk into mine.
David Hasselhoff, what kind of products do you use?
I love the smell of hairspray in the morning.
That is very dangerous.
Matt Damon, Harrison Ford, Ben Affleck, Anne Heche, Gwyneth Paltrow. None of these people are in this movie.
So this is the story of a Scottish hairdresser who, while being part of filmed as part of an off-the-wall BBC documentary, is invited to the World Hairdresser International Federation annual contest. Documentary team includes with Chris Langham playing the interviewer, follows Crawford to L.A., where he discovers that his invitation is to be a member of an audience rather than a competitor. He eventually weasels his way into the contest and produces the greatest creation of his career. This was still back when Craig Ferguson was a supporting character on the Drew Carey show. In fact, you see in the trailer there, Drew Carey himself actually shows up in the movie as well, and it was actually shot in between the hiatus that he took from the Drew Carey show. And nobody really knew what to make of Craig Ferguson back then. Of course, now we know that Craig Ferguson went on to become a really damn good late-night host. Probably there ahead of his time. Is leading before his time had passed him. I think a lot of people would agree that we'd really need to see Craig Ferguson in another late night show again. But his run with the Late Late Show was really, really good. But this was around that time when nobody really knew exactly what to do about him. He wasn't really going into like that annoying level like Russell Brand or James Corden did later on in his career, but nobody really knew exactly what to do with him. And there was an idea here that I think they took a lot of inspiration from something like This Is Spinal Tap, but it really doesn't quite go as much the way I think it wanted to. I think there were too many good opportunities in here, kind of wasted away. There are a couple of decent moments here and there that are legitimately funny, nothing too spectacular, nothing too engaging. It's just kind of a missed opportunity. I feel like there's some good ideas in this film, just not the right execution. With a better director, I think this one could have easily been much better. Maybe if you got the same team behind Borat, if you got them before they eventually worked with Sacha Baron Cohen down the road, maybe they could have made this work out as well. I mean, overall, the film isn't terrible, but it's one that I was kind of disappointed by when I saw that Craig Ferguson was the leading star in it, and this was the turnout that it ended up becoming. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too great, but just a decent film. Nothing I really want to watch over and over again. So that is the big tease.